Okay, fun. Let's get an idea of how to progress the serve from the very beginning to trying to put it all together in the end. So first things first, it always comes down to the toss, really. Good toss, easy serve, not so good toss, not so easy serve. A good little metric I like to do when I'm warming up is take my hand, pointing straight to the sky, letting go of my fingers. So I put the ball in my fingers, where my palm ends, my fingers begin. I kind of cradle the ball there. I start all the way down by my knee or so, and I slowly stretch up, pointing up to the sky. I like to breathe in as I go up, then breathe down as I go down. Then eventually I do that by letting go of the ball as well. Breathe in. A good old metric I like to have is to just point my hand straight to the sky and still be able to catch the ball. Again, very often when you're learning how to begin a serve, let go early, ball will probably be a little bit too low and far away from you. So people like to toss here when I want you to go all the way up. And do this as many times as you want. In your home while you're working, you mute yourself, turn off the video on Teams, in your chair, and just reach for the sky. Now, all right, eventually, once you get tired of tossing, time for the swing. Let's see what we got here. I'll hold the racket like a hammer. So continental grip. If you think of the way my wrist and my arm go into the racket, if it goes into the racket along the blade, like the same way you would hold a hammer, or you're chopping things on the cutting board, continental grip, that's pretty much what it is. If you're behind the racket, my arm is going behind the racket, that's a forehand. Oh, that sucks. Now for a hammer, that's pretty much it. Now with people getting started with a continental grip, oftentimes their ball is gonna go way off to the side because they're not really quite used to getting the strings to look forward. So when you're holding like a hammer, ultimately when you hit the ball, you're gonna have to, pronate or whatever, turn your forearm more or less. So you can more or less just practice that. It's gonna feel, like you're twisting something. So I hold the racket. A good way to kind of get the hang of it is, instead of letting it fall forward like a hammer, I try to let it fall a little bit diagonally. So I'm getting the strings to look forward. It's hard to stretch my arm out forward. It's a little hard on the wrist. So you can start off just going down to your side. Let the strings fall down to the side. And then eventually you try to twist your wrist a little bit. So instead of falling down sideways, it falls down a little forward, a little forward, a little forward. Because ultimately, when you hit the ball in the air with a continental grip, that's what you want to do. So instead of falling forward and strings point down, you swing it up, rotate your forearm, and the strings will look forward. So that helps. Now, to start warming up, I'll stick my racket straight up like an axe, turn my forearm, just make sure I get used to that. Now I'll relax my wrist, let it sag, and then stretch it up and rotate my forearm. Let it sag, stretch my wrist out, rotate my forearm. Now eventually, once I get used to this, it's gonna feel like a light shoulder exercise and a little bit of your forearm. I'm gonna hold my ball out, palm up. I'm gonna draw my line, let go of my fingers, and while it's in the air, I go for this motion where I stretch my wrist out and rotate my forearm. Right now, I don't care about getting the ball over the net. I just want to make sure I can catch the ball in the air, just catch on the strings. Getting used to the height at which I want to do it. So I'm going to draw the ball all the way up, and then just try to make contact. Once you can make contact, adding power is pretty easy. Really just, the hard part is just getting the timing down. That's really all it comes down to. You're practicing movements and you're practicing a certain timing. The power is always easy to add in there, but if the timing isn't there, the movements aren't there, you know, you're gonna be, you get a workout, I guess, but beyond that, I don't know. All right, so let's try one more time. So here, okay, getting used to that, twisting my forearm, and then relax the wrist, stretch it back up, and when I stretch it back up, rotate the forearm, boom. So eventually, boom, that enough. You can get some snap just from the wrist itself. Okay, cool. Now let's see how we can start building up on that. I like to kind of work the serve. Well, for now we'll work from the top down. So we got the wrist. What's the next joint below that? The elbow. So arm up, relax the wrist. Now relax the elbow, and the racket's now behind my head. Notice how my elbow is forwardish. It's pointing forward. It's not to the side. You can see here, it's people like to kind of just push their elbow up. See, this is my arms going up and down. It's not like almost like a shoulder press when you want it to be more of like a tricep extension for now, see? So I'm using my elbow, it's articulating, rotating around the elbow and the wrist too. So, arm up, relax the wrist, relax the elbow. Trying to keep the elbow up, so when I swing my arm, my racket's going up. If my elbow's down, my racket will swing down, or it ends up just being a push. See, it's not really a push, it's a pull into a swing. Let's give it a shot. Okay, relax the wrist, relax the elbow, and then I just reverse it. Flex the elbow, and then rotate that. Flex the wrist, and then think of that forearm thing too. So you're stacking motions on top of each other. We started with this. Now, add the elbow first, and then do that. Okay, let's try that. So, elbow, wrist. So now there's a little bit of a swing going on there. All right, let's try this again. I already have balls. Why do I not get balls from the machine? Okay. Relax this, relax that. Point the elbow up and reverse it. Boom. Okay, nice. Now, let's try it again. Toss. I like to point my hand to the ball as I toss. Helps me get an idea of what I'm doing with the ball. You know, helps me measure it, and it'll come in handy. Later. So let's try it. I'm going to toss and stretch. I'll keep both arms up for now. So I bring one arm up, other arm up. So the one hand, for now, it helps me get used to height. I want to hit the ball when the ball is above my other hand because one hand's longer, has a racket in there. Let's try it again. Boom. Yes, easing the shoulder. Point, point. Close enough. One more time. Tunk, tunk. Now, I'm gonna point, point. There we go. Nice. Now, eventually, once that comes in handy, we're gonna have to add now, what's one joint down? The shoulder. And the shoulder is connected to the rest of the torso. So we're now gonna have to use the torso. To move the shoulder, to move this joint around, I also have to move torso. So we're gonna add a little bit of this turning motion, twisting side to side, and see what happens. Now, you notice how I start off already facing the court. Now if I relax this, turn myself away. So to swing now, I turn and then go through 1, 2. So let's try that. I'm going to toss, then turn, 1, 2. Now, from this angle, if I toss the ball, you notice how this hand will get in the way if I keep it up there. It'll get in the way of me being able to turn to face the court. So as I turn, as I move my right arm, I'm going to pull my left elbow down. That helps open me up, and I have room to spin. So let's try that. Toss, down, and I go through that whole turn. Let's try that. Almost there. So here, I'm going to try to keep my elbow up as much as I can. So when I turn, I'm right back to that position I was before. Then flex the elbow, flex the wrist, and that forearm will eventually at this point happen by itself. So, toss, turn. Ooh, now there's a little bit of a, a little more pop in there. Same thing. I'm going to toss, turn, face the court, and then go through that swing motion. Now, a nice little neat thing about this left arm, to help speed up my motion, speed up my turn, I can speed up how far I pull that left arm down. So again, it's like the figure skaters when they're trying to make those little fancy spins, they tuck their arms in. Just that by itself. If you're on one leg, you pull your arm in, you can twist yourself. Okay? Works in zero gravity too. In case you're ever in space, you need to turn yourself around. Okay? So from here. Now, toss, turn. There we go. Now, by keeping my arm loose, that turn also helps get my racket some sort of motion to work off with. So I don't necessarily have to use all my arm entirely to move the racket. That turn, the racket feels light, and it just carries itself. Okay. All right, eventually, we're going to start making this look like a formal serve now. The next step is to help develop that whipping motion with this right arm. So instead of having my racket all the way back here, I'll start off holding it up. Now, when I hold the racket up, if we turn, you want to feel the weight of the racket lag, and that pulls your arm into this spot where the racket is basically behind your back, and you feel a little tug on your shoulder. You know, like you if you grab the racket and just try to do a little shoulder stretch. You almost want to do that with one arm. Boom. So if I balance the racket behind my head and I start my turn, the racket now goes behind. Instead of being above my elbow here, it goes behind and then it just falls over. Now that falling over is loose, and then if I turn forward, it goes on the other side. Think of how you swing a hammer. You don't start the hammer on top of the nail and just press. You lift it up and let it fall down. You lift it up, let it fall down. So let's try that. With my arm loose, if I turn, it falls and snaps out. It's going to turn, fall, snap out. So, okay, racket back, balanced behind my head. I'm going to toss, pull, boom. Oh no, it didn't go over the net. That's fine. All right, let's give this a shot again. Toss, pull. Oh, there's a little more poppy there too. Okay, let's try that again. Racket back. Toss, boom. Okay, so we're getting somewhere with it. Now, next stage, once I get the hang of that, normally I'll try to find the limit of how fast I can turn while still feeling like I can control my swing. So eventually, when I go through my whole motion, I'm really just taking my time getting to this spot here. Once I'm at this spot, so if I'm here, toss, hit, I go through my whole motion, I'm basically here. I go into there. Now, once I get used to the upper body, we'll start adding the lower body. Now, for now, you can start off with leaning forward until you take a step into the court following your follow through. So think of the racket weight as pulling you, and if someone holds your racket and pulls you, you take one step over. So let's try that. And I just follow one step over into the spot. Okay. Now I'll start seeing what I can do with my left arm. I'm going to pull it in a little bit faster, and it gets me a little more speed there. So now I'll go through my whole motion, pull the left arm, and get a little more speed there. So I'm trying not to use my right arm, that much, so I can save some in the gas tank for later. That left arm, again, I pull that in, the rest of the arm flies pretty quickly. Now here's the fancy part now. Let's add in the legs. So I use a pinpoint stance. That's just how I've done it all my life. Doesn't really matter. At the end, you can do whatever you want, platform, whatever. Whereas I like to put my feet close together versus keeping your feet, just where they are. It's all preference in the end. Now, the challenge is to get a nice, almost 90 degrees at some point. That's a pretty deep squat. So what I'll just do for now is, when I wind up, as my arms goes up, my knees bend. So it's like I don't know, kind of weird jumping jack looking thing this is, but arms up, knees bend. And I reverse it. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Oompa, oompa, doopity-doo. I'm going to teach the serve to you. Okay. So before we get to jumping, what my coach used to like to do to me is just get me to bend and then just straighten up. I'm not trying to get any air time yet. So I'm going to bend, straight up. Just a little bit of a flex and extension on the legs. Bend, up. Just to get the hang of that. One more time. Close enough. Now eventually, get the full thing, bend, jump, and whatnot. Now, I know there's there was this YouTube video I believe with Karu. I think he mentioned something along the lines of you're pushing off with your, the back foot and whatnot. So, eventually, something like that will help. But now, when you land, because you're landing and turning, your foot that's already facing the court, that's the first thing that you want to land on the ground. So when you bend, jump, and turn, my left leg's on the ground, my right leg's doing some scorpion tail thingy. That's all just, aesthetic at this point. So let's see what happens. Okay? Nice and easy. Bend, hit. Okay, nice. What's interesting is, when you get used to all this crap, your arm doesn't feel like the arm doesn't feel like it's doing that much to begin with. Most people, like when they're judging how hard they're hitting, they're seeing how much they're tensing their arm. It's more of just how fast the ball is going, really. You don't want to try so hard for these things. Okay, let's give it a shot. Bend, hit. Okay, yeah. Nothing too crazy. Let's try it again. So, bend, hit. Yeah, it's like not really doing that much. It's pretty cool. Now, once you feel like you have a groove with your serve, the next stage is preparing yourself to be able to handle the shot after. So oftentimes people hit, they kind of look at it, and when it's time to play points with serves, they get caught off that first ball because they're used to just hitting the serve and just standing there. So ultimately, after every serve, good little habit to develop is to bounce back into the right position, preferably behind the baseline. So you're going to go into the baseline, into the blue, and then back up out of the blue. So let's try it. Something like that. So eventually you want to get yourself, make that feel natural. That last one didn't feel a little awkward more. Let's try it again. So I'm gonna, so if nothing else, when you're playing, at least you remember to do this stuff. Okay. Now outside of this, really the overarching kind of like theme behind all this is you're only trying to do a movement as much as you're able to keep it relaxed. Don't want to ego serve or try to muscle things and then you tire yourself out and you're not developing any skills out of this. I'm guilty of this sometimes for the 11 a.m. class when the tourists come. I try to hit the serve, try to blast the ball through the window to impress people, to mess with them. Okay, let's try this now. Bounce, bounce, bounce. I'm gonna breathe in as I go up, and then breathe out as I turn myself. Okay, reach for the sky, like Toy Story. Okay, that felt not bad. Let's try it again. A little too army, not enough leggy. Okay, should probably brush myself more forward too. I want to go up and into the court. Let's try this again. And then sneak underhand serve. Wrong direction. Okay, not bad. And then you got your spin serves, your kick serves, your whatever you want to do, the pancake serve, reverse forehand serve. Those are all, I guess, another time, I suppose. All right, let's give this a shot. A few more. And at the end of the day, as soon as you can get the ball in the court, more often than not, really the next priority is really just aiming a direction. Having a direction you can reliably aim. What I like to do is, I like to imagine my follow through with the racket pointing the area I want the ball to go. So let's say I want to go down the middle, down the line here, down the tee, however you want to call it. If I go through my whole motion, didn't point there. I gotta make the racket point down the lead, down the line, up the tee. A little mishmash there. More or less like that. So my full motion, wind up, whoops-a-daisy, went for more power and did not put any intention on control. So wind up, wrong box. That's what happens when you think too much about how hard you're hitting rather than where you're going. So think of getting it in, then where you're going, and then you add power on that. All right, so let's try this a little bit more seriously. Is that net regulation? That ball means underhand serve. Close enough. All right, hopefully this all made sense. Any questions, comments, concerns, grievances, suggestions, feedback? You know where to find me.